This podcast is sponsored by Safe House Rehab Thailand, the premier drug and alcohol rehab dedicated to enhancing the science of recovery. First, a plug for my sponsor, who has given me the opportunity to help the families and loved ones of alcoholics and addicts better understand the nature of the disease and what they can and shouldn't do about it, shouldn't try to do about it. We say in our podcast and blog that our primary goal is to help you make an informed decision at this critical stage of your life. Safe House Rehab Thailand represents the modern approach to recovery, founded on safety, which is why we absolutely outperform traditional rehabs when it comes to intake and detox, technology, and aftercare. To learn more about our modern, advanced approach to recovery, we invite you to visit safehouserehab.com or send your questions and comments to info@safehouserehab.com. Hi, Bruno J. again, and this is episode 3 of season 6 already of Busting Addiction and Its Myths. Today I'd like to welcome Adam, who is a friend of mine and is in a very strong recovery program based in Pattaya. I want to tell you a little bit about the recovery scene in Pattaya. There is an excellent club at Ska Beach that is both an NA and an AA club. They have a meeting every morning at 9 o'clock and then meetings throughout the day. So that is one center of recovery that attracts a lot of alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous folks. There's another meeting that happens, it's called the Love and Tolerance meetings in another part of Pattaya at a very nice hotel location, and they have a meeting every day at noon, all week long. So the recovering community is pretty strong, and this is for anybody who speaks English, whether you're from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or a European country, or even South Africa. We have a few of those fellows as well. Thailand is one of the safest places in the world today, given the pandemic. It is also the center, it's the number one destination for medical tourism. So you have 70 million people in Thailand with maybe 3,000 cases of COVID and maybe something like 60 deaths. So it rises to the top of the world in terms of being a very safe destination. So with that, I'm going to start with Adam. And Adam, welcome aboard. And tell us a little bit about your early life before we get going into your recovery story.
Yeah. Hi, Bruno. Thank you for having me on board. Chance to share some of my experiences. Yes, British citizen. I grew up in Dubai. I was born in Dubai in 1984. I'm 36 years old. I'm the youngest of my family. I have 3 other siblings. My dad moved to Dubai in 1979 from the UK. My parents grew up actually in Zanzibar, which is an island off the east coast of Tanzania in Africa. They moved over to the UK when they were very young. And so my dad was in Dubai from 1979. I was born in 1984.
And what was his profession when he was there?
He's a chartered accountant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did fairly well in both in UK and Dubai. It was a very new country. Well, Dubai is one of the states and the city. It's the United Arab Emirates.
Right.
I didn't have too much interaction with my father. He was very work orientated.
Okay.
There was not much. He was hardly around. He'd spend most of his time at work, and his focuses were there.
Were there any signs or indications that anyone in your family, whether it was your parents or your siblings, were involved in alcohol or drugs when you were growing up?
No, looking back in hindsight, back then I didn't see it.
Okay.
Maybe with my uncle, I just sort of thought who's my dad's father, who was living out there as well with his family, that he drank too much. But it was never.
But nothing, no.
Right. Yeah, no indication or understanding of alcoholism or addiction.
Okay.
We just saw it as odd behaviour. Okay. Yeah, so my life growing up in Dubai was very free. My mum was quite free with myself. I went to a British school.
Okay.
Had various groups of friends. I would also so on Sunday I would go to church, and sometimes I'd go to the temple as well. Because I had different groups of friends. I would have my friends from the streets where I learned how to speak Hindi.
Okay.
I had some Arabic friends, local friends. I would also have my school friends, and then there would be the friends from the mosque.
Okay, so exposure to a lot of different types of people and beliefs.
Yeah,
what language did you speak at home?
At home, I spoke mainly English with the mix of Gujarati.
Okay, which is
from northern India, from the state of Gujarat.
Okay,
and that's originally where I would say my ancestry is from.
Okay,
but it does also date back to Yemen.
Okay, interesting.
And the community I grew up in is probably about 3.5 to 4 million of us in the world.
Okay,
and we're a tight-knit community, mainly based. So the majority of people who from this community, we practice Islam. We're all over the world, but we are based in business. So we'll be in hardware business, plumbing and sanitary, business of wholesale, and retail. Fairly affluent community.
All right.
On the whole.
All right, so moving forward a little bit to past your early development age toward your teenage years, when were you first exposed to alcohol and or drugs?
So growing up as a kid, like I mentioned, it was quite free. I enjoyed myself. I went to a good school. I got what I wanted.
Right.
I would say, being the youngest, I was probably fairly spoilt. Good set of friends. I was very active in my sports, all the way up to my teen years. There were a few instances now when I look back that I'm looking at through my recovery, where I have abandonment issues, which as a child I wasn't able to process. Growing up in Dubai, it's a very transient environment.
Okay.
So there were always people coming in and out of my life, and in that occurring to me, in that happening, I sort of developed this distrust of people.
Okay.
But also, I could befriend someone, but now when I look at it, if I meet someone, in my head automatically I know they would be leaving with me, so it was difficult for me to build intimate or deep connections with people. And then there were a few violent instances as well when I observed when I was a child.
Okay.
And as a child, I'd learned, I think this was around 3 or 4 years old, I'd learned, I call it sucking my tears back in, the ability not to cry.
Okay.
To show that.
So hold your feelings in.
Yeah, hold my feelings in. I would express myself with joy, cheekiness. I was a jovial child, though that was probably around 4 or 5 was the time where anger was starting to build.
Okay.
And then when I moved into
when you say anger starting to build, was this what was the anger about?
Ultimately, where I'm at in my recovery, what I'm looking at through the process of working the AA program and the steps is that I'm coming to see it's that identity of my personal identity and where I belong.
Okay. So you didn't have a sense of belonging when you were growing up. You felt, and this is very common. Okay.
I had a lot of friends, though I would always change my personality, even at an early age, to suit the environment that I was in.
Okay, that's common too.
So deep down, there was always this feeling of unsettledness.
Okay, all right. So you were a chameleon.
You could say, yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people would say that about wanting to fit in and wanting to be like others or be liked by others, right? Was that a strong thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I used to like climbing trees as well, hanging out.
All right, so go where you want to go.
Yeah, and growing up as well, going to the sort of abandonment area, I would have a maid. So my mum, I'm very close to my mum and my 2 sisters.
Okay.
And they were the majority. There's a big gap between me and my brother of 13 years.
All right.
I always looked up to him, though we're not very emotionally connected as brothers.
Okay.
And obviously through my addiction there was a period where we lost touch.
Okay.
And the teen years were good. There was an instance where a family disturbance happened when I was 13 years old, where a very close family friend who had also befriended me had sort of let our family down and stolen a lot of money. And the environment, I'm very, I would say, family orientated and cared about the ones who were close to me, which would be my family, my 2 sisters and my mum and my dad. But I didn't feel the love for him when I look back now, and I was always craving that love from my father.
Right.
Doing things to please him, but never having anything in return. So as I grew older, this was where the anger was building,
Okay,
the sense
got
of
it.
belonging,
Okay.
and also certain instances of bullying within the mosque environment in my
Okay.
community.
Right.
So
Were
that
you
was
the
big
bully
thing.
or were you the object of bullying?
I was the object of bullying.
Okay.
However, I would be the bully in other areas.
Okay.
So I never felt this sense of belonging in my community.
Okay.
However, I felt it was thrust upon me because
Okay.
of what my parents knew,
Got it.
and that I had to be part
Okay.
of it.
Was your entry into whether it was drugs or alcohol? How do you connect your experiences to your entry into drugs and alcohol? Was that did you sense that was happening, or how did you get involved? How did you get involved with drugs and alcohol?
So I would say my first drug was nicotine.
Okay. At what age?
At 12.
Okay.
Yeah, smoking shisha before
Okay.
cigarettes. So
Okay.
shisha, I think some people would know it as hubbly bubbly. It's very common. Yeah.
All right.
In the Middle East, it's
Okay.
smoking tobacco
Okay.
through. I guess some people would call it a big bong.
Okay.
What
Like a hookah or
yeah, a hookah
yeah,
basically.
okay.
And they would sit out. We'd play cards, outdoors. We'd eat food, play cards,
And smoke.
chess, backgammon. Yeah, and just smoke. And
Okay.
one hookah could last between half an hour to an hour.
Was there alcohol being served in that,
No.
setting?
No, there wasn't any alcohol. And this was, I would say, that my introduction. Me and my cousin used to go on his roof on occasion. He would do butane gas. I always felt I would hide it, the fact that I wouldn't do it, but then I would go back and do the butane gas on my own.
Okay. What's that
And
do
it
for
was-
you?
It was a buzz.
Okay.
It would give you an intense buzz where you were sort of just taken away.
All right.
Only would
This
last.
is a new
for
one on us.
Yeah,
On me, anyway. Have you heard of it?
University.
yeah.
I thought that if you inhale some butane and then lit it, it would you would spew fire. No?
I wish.
There's room for humor in these podcasts, you know. Why do you
money
think this
from
is
that.
all just like glum? No, man, we have fun here.
Yeah,
It's an education for me anyway. Not that I'm going to try it now, but
No, I hope you don't.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be like doing nitrogen oxide.
Okay.
Canisters,
I got
which is
nitrous
big,
oxide,
yeah.
laughing gas.
Yeah, laughing gas.
Laughing
yeah,
gas,
Yeah.
yeah.
We called them basically creamers where we were.
Yeah.
It's just like the canisters for the whipped cream machines.
Yeah. People have done that too.
Yeah. I'm feeling a strong sense of not belonging. Okay. So you go from there to what in terms of substance?
In terms of substances.
And at
then-
what age? Just
So I started doing butane at 13.
okay.
I had my first drink when I was 13, so
Okay.
I started clubbing when I was 13 in Dubai. And
Okay. So you'd go to the clubs and bars.
Yeah, when
Okay.
I was 13.
What's the official drinking age over?
21.
Okay, so you passed for 21 at the age of 13.
It was a lot freer back
Oh,
then.
okay. So they didn't.
I
They
would pay the
turned a
ba-
blind eye.
Yeah, they turned a
Yeah.
blind eye and
Yeah,
sometimes pay
okay.
the bouncers off, and
Okay.
it was sort of a bit of a joke.
Okay.
Yes, in that sense.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
Then I started doing glue
Okay.
at 13. I did have alcohol a few times. I wasn't really interested in alcohol, to be honest.
What does glue do for you? Makes you high, right?
Yeah.
Really high.
Yeah.
What's
yeah.
the compound in glue? What is it? What is it in? What's in there?
No, I don't.
We don't know.
No.
Okay.
Well, we
All right.
could probably fit that.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is about addiction and substance, and no judgments at all.
My addiction to substances, nicotine obviously carried on, and I would be smoking and doing shisha every day.
Okay.
The butane and the glue was more of a private thing.
Okay. All right. An occasional thing.
Yeah, occasional. And drinking at that age wasn't an interest to me. My friends
Okay.
would drink,
Okay.
but I would hardly drink. I was, to be honest, more interested in girls.
Okay. How
one of
old
my
were your friends? Were your friends older than you at this
Same
point?
age, yeah.
Okay.
So,
So they're all early young teens, right?
Yeah. I used to like my thrills from stealing and just doing adventurous things in Dubai. And Dubai was quite adventurous, so climbing buildings, stealing things, or just being naughty. Me and my cousin, we were sort of partners in crime. We
So
thought
you
it
got a
was
rush
just-
out of this. You got
Yeah.
you got some adrenaline going, right?
Yeah, stealing from supermarkets, from simple things like chewing gum, Never anything big. It was more. Now when I look back, it was more for the anticipation, and then from that you get the thrill, the adrenaline,
Okay.
and then the endorphins of having to.
Did you ever get arrested?
No, I was luckily never.
You were
got
good.
arrested.
He was good. He was good at what he did.
Yeah, well, I wasn't bad. I could get away.
He takes pride in this now. Okay.
Yeah, I was good at shifting the blame, or
Ooh.
it was quite free.
You learned early, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's funny.
the sneaky ways of an addict.
All right. You're on your way.
Yeah, there was some enjoyable
Right.
parts. So
Okay.
back then they would have the flower show. I lived near a area which were all florists, but they would keep all their flowers and their plants outside. So me and him would go around 2-3 o'clock at night, steal all the plants and go and plant them in other people's gardens.
Okay.
So
Just for the hell of it.
Just for the hell of it.
All right. Good.
Went to Haagen-Dazs and I stole. They would keep all their chairs outside because Dubai was it still is a very safe place.
Right. Okay.
Go into someone else's house and stole their slides and their playpens and brought it to my house.
Okay.
Let's say it didn't go down very
Sure,
well with my parents.
I was just going to say, how did you explain all this furniture?
It was like, yeah, just being kids. We just thought it was...
And you're
I was
13,
able to,
14, 15,
yeah,
something like that?
my dad never would scold me. He always left that responsibility to my mum. But I was very... My mum is an enabler.
Okay.
And I was able to...
Get away with it.
Get away with it.
All right.
He's just being a kid. But, what I learned is that generally children don't do things like that to those extremes, and they're still. It was just the
But you
thrill
didn't
and the
know.
rush. Yeah. And I used to get into a lot of fights.
Okay.
Because there was that, like I mentioned earlier, there was this seething anger that was building up, and
Sure.
Of 12, when this incident where this family friend who I was very close to sort of betrayed the family, and it felt like a betrayal to me when I look at it, and that was the releasing of my anger towards the world.
Got it.
And myself, the feeling of unworthiness, and at the same time I had an instance with a taxi driver where I was felt up by the taxi driver, and I think I was 11 or 12, and I get out of the taxi and I still paid him for the ride, but I was furious at myself for not having reacted, but I was unable to do so.
Right. Okay.
So that had been sitting with me, and I've never told anyone about that until a year ago.
Okay. Well, so there's a lot of stuff going on in your background that you're still working through. Let me shoot forward to the first major time that you got involved in alcohol, which was, I assume, your first alcohol being the drug of choice, that it became a drug of choice?
Yeah, it became
So tell me about that sequence of how you entered into that world. And how old were you? What were the circumstances? Because it's really important that we make the turn to the what it was like part of your life. Okay.
So between as I mentioned, we would go back to England every summer holidays, and all my friends from Dubai would also be there. And I went to my first rave when I was 15 years old. Okay. And that's where I smoked a little bit of hashish.
Okay.
Didn't really think much of it, but I can't really remember it, to be honest. And then moved back. And then when I was 15 years old, I was told I was doing my first year of GCSEs, which is I don't know what that'd be equivalent. I was told you have a 2-year course, between 15 to 16 or 17. And at 15, I was told at the end of the year that I had to move to England with my mother and be leaving Dubai. And I was at this point, I was getting very settled. I was enjoying my life as a teenager. Okay. And moved to England. That was a very big shock to my system. So I'm working through still, because I'm still. Tomorrow I'll be 22 months in sobriety and recovery. And so moving to England was quite tough. And then I was.
What year was that? And you were 15 at the time?
1999.
Okay, got it.
I was 15.
Okay.
When I moved to the UK.
So tell me again, how did you enter into the world of alcohol?
Come into the world to fit in. Initially.
But I mean, what age were you?
I was 15 years old.
Okay.
And the circumstances.
When was your first drink? What was the circumstance?
Went to a pub, so I was finally invited out by some of the people in my year. Okay. I went along, desperate to make friends. So we went out on a Friday night to the pub.
Okay.
And this pub would let underage drinkers in.
Okay.
And yeah, just got hammered.
Okay.
And it wasn't having. We went to drink to get drunk. I had had alcohol prior to that, so I sort of knew what I was getting into. But that was probably the first time I went for it.
Did you have the intention to get drunk at that
Yes.
point? You did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you went to a pub to get drunk at the age of 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
15, yeah.
All right. That's the starting point.
Okay.
What happened after that?
Fast forward, and then we would drink every day.
Okay.
Every weekend.
Okay. All
So
right.
we'd always look to go to bars or clubs, and I'd started raving. So every so often I'd go to raves in central London, where there would be a lot of drugs around.
Uh-huh.
At the age of 16, I took my first ecstasy pill
Okay.
at a rave.
Okay.
And there, it was just the progression. I just thought this is what
This is
what
it's
you
all
do.
about.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. This
Okay.
is what you do. My education, my schooling was going well. I thought I was settled.
All right.
But there was always that feeling of unsettledness inside
Got
in
it.
terms of not belonging.
Okay. And so
And
when did
I
it
was
become
striving.
a problem for you with respect to school?
When I moved to England, I had to go a year behind. My plan was always to go to university.
All right.
And it was to become a dentist.
Okay.
I applied to 4 universities, got into 3 to do dentistry.
Okay.
During this time, my first year of A-levels, that's when my drug taking took off. And my
How old were you at that
alcoholism.
time? 19, 20?
At that time, I would have been 18.
Okay.
And that's when my alcoholism took off,
Okay.
and drug taking. Smoking weed every single day,
Okay.
drinking both days
Marijuana
on the
you're talking about, right?
Yeah, marijuana. Drinking both days on the weekend, and during the week we probably 2-3 times.
Okay.
Spending a lot of time out on the streets, just wandering around, going from friend's house to friend's house.
Okay. Hanging out, doing dope and drinking.
Yeah,
All right.
basically.
Okay. So you had anger going.
Yeah.
You had a lot of anger going. Yeah.
And then my first year of A-levels, I ended up basically getting Fs and Us.
Okay.
So the school had a policy where you had to have minimum 3 Cs, and I was kicked out
Okay.
or discharged.
Got it.
And in doing so, I was very angry at the college because it was a public school. Also, there were other people in there who got less than me, who were allowed back in.
Okay.
So there was this building resentment. And then
Okay.
I went to another college,
Okay.
primarily dealing with just A-levels, and I completed my A-levels in 2 years. But during that time, I started my drinking and drug taking.
Did you try to
and
stop
dealing.
at any point?
No.
You just kept going.
Yeah, I just kept going. I
Okay.
just thought I could get through it. I
Okay.
never saw it as a problem.
Ah. Okay.
I go to a rave once in a while and say, okay, you know what, I'm not taking pills, or I'm not going to do cocaine.
Okay.
And that had also started around when I was 17, doing cocaine.
Okay. So then what? Now you're in a new university. Did you graduate? College, rather. College.
Yeah, I got my A-levels.
Okay.
I didn't get the grades to go to dentistry, though through a system of clearing, I still went to university up north in England, to University of Leeds, which is a very good university.
Okay.
I chose to do sports science.
Okay.
I was a heavy smoker, a heavy drug taker, a heavy drinker, and I chose to do sports science.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And first year at university, it was just, again, all the same, making new friends, going out clubbing, raving, doing a lot of drugs, and now I'm more or less drinking every single day.
Okay.
And smoking marijuana every single day, from waking up till going to bed.
Okay.
Use it to wake up, use it to go to sleep.
Did you see it as a problem at that point or no?
No.
No. Okay. So no problem in your head. Right. And did you think this is like how everybody lived, or what was your perspective? You didn't think about it, right? You had friends that did the same thing.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd convinced myself, there probably was this feeling inside that there is a problem.
Right.
Though I'd convinced myself this is the way that other people live.
Okay.
And that I'm going to live this way for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And it would fluctuate, because sometimes I would also say, oh, when I leave uni, I'm not going to do this. Once
Got
I get
it,
a job,
okay.
I get a house and 2.5 children, and
Okay. No, this is
and
very
so
important
forth.
stuff. Okay. But you stuck to it, though.
I
You
did
got
stick
you
to
got to
it.
give yourself some credit, don't you think? I mean, 6 years. I had a brother who took 7 years to do a 4-year program, so this is nothing. My daughter took 5 years. I mean, this is nothing terribly unusual, and
What-
you stuck to it, right?
While I was at university in my second year, I did feel that something was going wrong with me, and I was becoming very depressed. So I'd started antidepressants.
Tune in next week for the next episode of Busting Addiction and Its Myths, where we now have our weekly episodes titled by topic for you to search and download at your leisure, all in the interest of busting some myths and bringing you the truth about the face of addiction and alcoholism today.